knowledge of the entrepreneurs about some of the recent interventions. I think I will not read all the slides, though some of the slides and some of the contents are already covered by my earlier speakers. So I would like to skip some of the slides, and I think I will go only to some important slides. So I think this statistics is, I think this is, okay. So this is, I think, the present definition of MSME, which I think is already known. I think this is what actually like someone morning also, I mean evening you mentioned about the change in the classification criteria. Although this criteria has been cleared by the cabinet, but I think it is again still a long way to go because it has to go to the parliament and parliament has to discuss the bill and I think it has to be passed. But only going by the past experience, I think probably it might take much more time unless there is a consensus in the parliament. Already there are some concerns raised by some section of the MSME associations on this. But only thing is, like us, we discussed in other sessions, if you want to really make a difference in the MSME sector, especially if you want to be really global, entities and you want to reach global markets, I think this kind of changes are really required. And in fact, I would even, I used to even advocate that this kind of changes should have taken place much before, and even these changes or the criteria changes what is suggested, it is not sufficient, especially if you want to reach out in the defense sector and some of the capital sectors. This, in fact, I used to even move this concept of having a separate criteria for some of the capital intensive industries like defense, railways, power, nuclear, and so forth. In fact, even this kind of investment criteria, you may not be able to attract the world-class MSMEs. So this is as per the interventions are concerned. Like when you talk about the government's interventions, it is though the external stakeholders have got a lot of interventions on the SME sector. The government is also committed to come out with certain interventions which directly or indirectly help the MSMEs, because MSMEs cannot be helped by government directly on credit or interest reduction or any concessions, because ultimately like the MSMEs, if they want to survive or if they want to be very competitive, they have to be market driven actually. Like what government is doing is actually like wherever the critical areas like marketing, credit, technology, they are the three areas where actually SMEs always require some kind of hand holding. So here government has mandated our organization NSIC as well as some of the state corporations to provide certain of the interventions like, when you talk about marketing, you have raw material distribution interventions wherein actually, unlike, the purchases from the private dealers or agencies, there is a kind of a fairness, there's a kind of a balance in terms of supplies. And normally like the prices of the raw materials are most likely like it will be very, very competitive and normal. In fact, even in our case, like whatever raw material we supply, we always, supply the product at the manufacturer's cost, and we don't charge anything from the SME sector to the extent possible unless there is a minor under recovery. And of course, even in fact, that is one of the reasons actually, like if you look at our corporation or some of the state corporations, though the turnover may be very high, but again, the profitability is normally like very marginal, because it is a kind of a mandate we have to carry out for the MSME sector. And of course, besides, we also have, like the government purchase schemes and tender marketing schemes, which is very much helpful for the MSMEs, because except the tech savvy or, say MSMEs who are backed with, good talents. Otherwise, most of this MSME, they struggle in getting government contracts. So here actually government has mandated companies like NSIC to form some consortia, and in fact actually the MSMEs can participate through NSIC, and once we get the orders, in fact our capacity and our credentials can be used in participating in some of the tenders. And even if as a single MSME you may not have the capacity, so you can we form a collective consortia, then you can participate, and once the order is allotted, normally we pass it on to the member consortium members, so that you don't face threat of entry barriers in bigger contracts. Then again, we also have e-marketing portals in our company as well as even ministry and has got now, there's a portal eBiz, and also I think now you must have also heard about GEM. So GEM is also now coming in a very big way. And besides most of this selling government organizations, including our organization, we have an e-commerce portal which helps the MSMEs, even for faraway places, to be part of the government supply chain. Plus, also we have marketing events. This is another mandate to us. Like we also support a large number of MSMEs for participation in the domestic events as well as for the foreign events, so that they can showcase their products. They can again, get networking with the buyers, and this is almost done at a very negligible cost. So, and of course, even this, some of the participants like Subcon or even any other events happening in Coimbatore, the participants can always approach us, and we'll be very happy to help you. Plus, again, the credit sector side, we have government has come out with a lot of direct and indirect interventions. In fact, even our side, we also provide raw materials with some credit facilities. And plus, in addition to our interventions, like I think you must be aware of CGTMC schemes. Then again, even with the bill discounting, now government has come out with the bill discounting exchange, RXL. So I think these are all the indirect way of ensuring credit availability and working capital availability for the MSMEs. The technology side, yes, I think in addition to the minor interventions like training and like metal testing and calibration services, in fact, actually, like I will show a couple of other slides where what government has done, especially like creation of tool rooms and technology centers, which are coming up in some of the important industrial clusters. Plus, the other support services are, the incubation schemes, of course, which almost, like we, with an investment of about 1 crore, you can set up livelihood incubators. Of course, in addition to that, we also have technology incubators where the kind of incubations will be up for the higher level. Plus, we also have infrastructure supports. We have software technology parks, and we also business parks where the MSMEs can, take up spaces as well as for their business as well as for carrying out software development. Then also we help MSMEs in getting into the international markets through focus routes. We have a lot of MOUs. We have almost 33 MOUs with various developed and developing countries. And this MOUs can be properly leveraged for, getting into some kind of engagements. This also paves way for taking delegations to some foreign countries, which can always be represented by associations. So this, I think, I do not want to, this basically our internal. Okay. So this again, I mentioned about internal marketing. So this is one latest thing which we have done for MSMEs. In fact, there are a lot of e-commerce platforms, and of course now this is a kind of an era of e-commerce players world over. But we have also done in a small way to help the MSMEs. We have a MSMEmart.com e-portal, which helps the MSME people to MSME sector to display their products and also to get buyers. And of course, we are doing it for a very nominal cost. Of course, we are in the process of revamping this portal, and this will help to some extent. Of course, now we are in the process of developing this portal in a much better platform. In fact, what we are planning is in addition to the services like raw material, financing, and training, we are also now planning to aggregate the various services. In fact, the services means we are also now planning to aggregate, export service providers. We are planning to aggregate technology service providers. We are planning to aggregate, logistics service providers, so on and so forth. So that we can play as a kind of a balancing act because otherwise normally what happens is when you approach any service provider, like whether it's for export or for domestic services, you always end up paying a little more actually. But again, with our kind of intervention, when we aggregate various service providers on an all India basis, we can always come to some kind of a very competitive rate, and which again it will help the MSM units to avail the services at a very competitive rate. Plus again, you will have the support of the government in case of any disputes or legal issues. We can always intervene, and we can sort it out. Of course, we are in the process of identifying the needs, and I think very shortly we'll be launching some of the services. We also created one hub as per the government's mandate, mainly to handhold SC/ST entrepreneurs and to make them as suppliers in the government system, because there is a mandatory 20% of procurement from the micro small enterprises by the government, and out of that some 4% has to be procured from SC/ST entrepreneurs. So this is what actually I was talking about, the new aggregation services which we are now planning to launch it actually, the single point registration which we already have mainly for helping out MSMEs is undergoing a lot of changes actually. We are going to broad base it actually, in fact including we are going to have one elite single point registration database mainly for catering to the defense and high level technology sectors, so which might undergo a 2 level of inspection services, so that this will be a kind of a credible database for catering to the defense and other requirements. And we are also planning to aggregate the e-commerce services so that MSME units can participate and also get some services at a very competitive rate. Plus same way like export facilitation, logistics aggregation. We are also planning to aggregate the IT service providers, then machinery manufacturers, and like raw material suppliers, including the fintech companies and other NBFCs, so that all the service providers will be available in a digital platform, which will also give you kind of a options for you. So you can also pick and choose. You can also make a comparison of their service charges, and I think you'll be able to get some kind of very competitive and reliable and dependable service providers. Unlike you select independently, this will give you some kind of a government-backed, trust-sealed suppliers. And especially like even morning, in fact, I was really felt very happy because one of your local Coimbatore manufacturer, he came and approached because maybe, I don't know how he came to know, but later on he said he was informed by somebody from Calcutta that I am in Coimbatore. So he says we want NSIC to help some of these products for export. He says he was exporting the product through NSIC some 20 years back, and he felt that actually NSIC should again come back and help this companies like him for exporting. So I asked him, I felt so elated, and I asked him what. He said actually, sir, any export through government mechanism with the backup of NSIC or with the government mechanism will definitely help in finding a good market in some other countries where an independent MSME will find it difficult to go and tap the market, because unlike the organized players can always visit personally and tap the market, but whereas small-time players, they always have to depend on some dependable, preferably a government-backed institution, so that they'll be able to get some foothold in the export markets. So what I'm saying is actually though people always often criticize that the government services are not up to the expected level, but actually no, this is a classic example. People still have a lot of hope and trust on the government institutions, so that when they export products or services, they will not face any kind of a risk or uncertainty in the markets. So this is what actually, in fact, this is an explanation how these e-commerce services will work out very competitive for the MSME sector. In fact, if you look at the kind of total e-commerce market in India, it's a huge market actually. It's about $100 billion US market. So where actually our role, in fact, NSIC or the government role in this is almost negligible. But again, by way of aggregating various, like the e-commerce portals as well as MSMEs, I'm sure actually we'll be able to provide you a very competitive, very dependable, and also like very, credible options for you, so that like this can become some kind of a hand-holding or new kind of engagement for MSMEs with NSIC. So this is again, I just mentioned about the various government initiatives, because government itself is getting into this e-space in a much bigger way. And I think sooner or later, like now, the entire transaction, whether it is tendering, I think already now e-tendering is now it's mandatory, and even this display of tenders now, there is a mandatory government, central procurement portal. Now this GEM has come in a big way. So your physical way of doing business with the government is almost coming to an end. So the challenge here is actually like now one of the finding is like when the e-tendering has been